competitive time in. So, Felipe Wills got a bit of space out on track. It looks as though the tyres are now in the window, starting to push. Car 50, the silver car, that was so quick in Portimao. And out he comes, running towards the flat-out turn 5, and then in towards turn 6, the parabolica interior, which is turn 6. Here he comes, and it'll be the heavy braking here, and the left-hand turn. Car in front of him just locking up. You can see some smoke that he passed through, and the green and white car in front of him. Out of 6 he comes towards turn 7 to the inside, and the car that locked up in front of him was Didier Gloria. And out towards turn 8, Felipe Wills, 144.395. That is the benchmark at the moment, looking to improve dramatically on that in this lap. He's gone purple in sectors 1, 2 and 3, so this is his big push lap. Keeping out of the way of the back markers, into the S's he comes. Hitting all the apexes, being wary of track limits, and then out into the final corner and onto the pit straight. Felipe Wills will stop the clock in just a few moments. This is going to be an improvement, a 144.395 last time around. What's it going to be when he crosses the line this time around? It's a 142.161, so that's our real proper first benchmark time. There is the aforementioned Seb Hopkins. Well, we said he was quick. He's currently P2 overall in a GT4 car, although 150 last time around. But he's gone purple in all 4 sectors. Seb Hopkins looking incredibly quick as he crosses the line. Seb Hopkins, a 142.761. I remind you, he is in a GT4 car against the GT3 drivers, and he jumps up into P2, just 0.191 behind Felipe Wills. So great stuff from car treble 2. Such a quick driver in P3. It is the number 70 of Michal Majlov. He has got a 143.221, so a little over a second off the provisional pole position time. Now Felipe Wills just increasing the speed a bit more. It was not a personal best in sector 1, but sector 2, quickest of anybody. But keep an eye on this man here. He is absolutely going for it. Seb Hopkins, treble 2, pushing hard in that GT4 Porsche Cayman. Out wide he goes, not too wide. Brilliant stuff. Really, really competitive racing. One of the real superstars up and coming in Porsche racing. Car treble 2. He's out towards turn 9 at the moment. 8, 9, 10, the S's, and then into 11 and 12, and then he'll be on to the final corner, turn 13, which will be the Parabolica Ayrton Senna, and that will be out onto the pit straight. What will he do here? At the moment, Murabi Mekvabishvili is up into pole position provisionally at 141.109. Where will Seb Hopkins go, though, in the GT4 car, the treble 2 car, out onto the pit straight? He will come to cross the line, and Seb Hopkins will break the beam, and we'll see where that is. The 142, he's up into P3, so 141.830. Michal Majlov up in that pole position at the moment, a 140.885. Good time from him. Felipe Wills down into P2, 141.109. Less than 7 minutes remaining. This driver here, very much stealing the headlines. He's dropped down into P5 now, but continues to push out on track. By far the quickest of the GT4 runners. Second in the GT4 is Henk van Narel. He's in 12th place, and he is 144.7 on the timing, so significantly slower than Seb Hopkins. Alexander Dobik, who had visited the pits, back out on track now. Driver Robert Sulmer out quickest of anybody in sector 1. He's currently in 3rd place as we look at Michal Majlov, currently our provisional pole sitter. But looking under threat, Robert Sulmer might be a driver who's going to sneak up, although sector 2 for Sulmer was not especially quick. Another driver still pushing, Seb Hopkins. He was purple in his sector, in sector 1, the quickest of any of the GT4 drivers, currently 5th overall. There is Michal Majlov, provisional pole sitter, looking to improve, 140.885, the only driver into the 40s. He goes past the P2 car, Felipe Wills, who keeps out of his way. So, car number 70 out into turn 13 for the final corner and out onto the pit straight. This is going to be probably the last of the big pushes before the tyres start to go off. Robert Solmer crosses the line. There goes Seb Hopkins, and Mielov continues in that pole position. 140.885. Felipe Wills in second. Limbo now jumping up into third place. Car number 56. He got 2 sixth places at Portimao, so in a good position to improve on those if he can start in the top 3. Continue to follow our provisional pole sitter. Car number 70, Michał Mielov. The blue and black machine behind him, Felipe Wills, looking to improve, but nobody is going faster at the moment. There are no purples on the timing screen, so it's Mielov from Wills, from Limbo, Robert Solmer, Murabi Mekvabishvili in P5, and number 18, Yuka Irola, who is in amongst the action very much in Portimao. He's next, and then it is the GT4, Seb Hopkins, who is in the provisional pole in the GT4 category. So Mielov got a lot of empty track in front of him, so this is his best opportunity, but has he taken as much out of the tyres as he dare at this stage of the day? There is Seb Hopkins once again pressing on. Car treble 2, the 18-year-old driver from the UK here preparing for Porsche Great Britain Sprint Challenge in 2024. Didier Glorier, car number 7, guesting here, making his first start of the year in Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe. Currently in 9th place, Didier Glorier. Seb Hopkins continuing to push away. Now Felipe Wills has been pushing hard in sector 4. He's the quickest of anybody. Robert Solmer up into provisional pole position of 140.839. So now a second driver into the 140s. Robert Solmer in car number 63. Good stuff from him. He got a 4th and a 3rd at Portimao, and in a great position to improve on that further here in Estoril. So continuing out into sector 2, 25.992 in sector 2. So about a hundredth of a second slower than where he really wants to be in that sector. But Robert Solmer pushing hard into the pits. Car 70. We thought he's probably taken as much out of the tyres as he dare. So Michał Mielov now into the pits. His session looks to be done. Solmer in amongst the traffic. Into the S's. Up the hill he comes. The left and then the right. Car 63 avoiding any traumas at the moment. A 140.839. Can he extend that further? His sector 3 was not especially good, but out into sector 4. Car 63 for Proton Huber Racing. Of Christoph Huber's involvements. Great team. With Robert Solmer at the wheel, proving to be very useful indeed. Across the line comes Robert Solmer. The 140.839. And looks as though he doesn't improve on that. So Michał Mielov still in that 2nd place. Felipe Wills in 3rd place. Lee Mole in 4th. And it's Henk van der Rel that we're looking at in the GT4 standings. Currently 3rd in the GT4's 15th overall. Still looking to move his way up the grid. Seb Hopkins, well, he's into the pits, but he is a lot further up the grid than his other GT4 challengers. A minute and a half of this session remaining. There is Robert Solmer once again. Lights flashing to anybody in front of him. Get out of the way. I'm on a fast lap. At 19.627 in sector 1. That is quick. Sector 2 at 26.022 into sector 3 at the moment. The traffic in front of him, is it going to play a part? A little over a minute remaining. Robert Solmer looking good. It doesn't look to be anybody challenging him at the moment. And he's set a personal, in fact an overall best in sector 3 as well. So looking to stretch his legs even further at the front. Robert Solmer in car number 63. Out into the final section, around to turn 13 in just a few moments. He will come. and out to cross the beam. There's a GT4 car in front of him. Now, will that play a part in this? Henk van der Rel is the car that's in front of him. To out of the final corner, he comes. Robert Sulmer crosses the line, 140.839. He doesn't improve any further, but that pole position now looking pretty secure, particularly with Michał Mylov into the pits. Felipe Wills in that third place. And Lee Mole suddenly jumping up. In fact, Felipe Wills at 140.684. So just when we thought that Sulmer had got it solid, now Felipe Wills up into provisional pole position. He didn't set any purples, but he was just consistently quick across all the sections. And it was car 50 suddenly in the closing stages, and also Lee Mole also jumping up. So car 50 and car 56, Felipe Wills and Lee Mole, who jump up into the top two, and Robert Sulmer, who is looking like a dead cert for that pole position, suddenly down to P3. He's out there, he's pushing hard, but has he got anything left? I don't think he has. Robert Sulmer out on track. Can he do anything about Felipe Wills, who came out of nowhere? Nothing spectacular in the sectors, but then an overall good lap. Lee Mole was purple in sector 1 on this lap as well, but he's come up behind Felipe Wills. So those two cars, the two silver cars that are looking to suddenly be like front row starters. The checkered flag is out. We are on the final lap of this qualifying session. Now, can Felipe Wills improve? Can Lee Mole do anything about that? Robert Sulmer is also responding, purple in sector 3. So it's between Wills, Mole and Sulmer for this pole position, because Mylov is into the pits. Here comes Felipe Wills, the first of the two silver cars. Behind him is Lee Mole into the final sector of the track. Brilliant stuff. The timing perfect. Waiting for the track to come to him, for the tyres to come into temperature. Across the line goes Felipe Wills. Robert Sulmer up into pole position. Car 63 jumps up a 140.105. Then Felipe Wills, then Lee Mole. In the closing laps, it was all changed. Robert Sulmer, he pulled it out of the hat. How did he do that? We knew he was responding. He pulled it together in the closing sectors. What a fantastic qualifying session. Robert Sulmer, when it looked like all was gone, it looked like it was going the way of Felipe Wills and Lee Mole, but in the end it was Robert Sulmer who takes pole position. Felipe Wills in second ahead of Lee Mole. The fastest of the GT4 drivers, Seb Hopkins at 141.830, just 1.7 seconds off the fastest of the GT3 runners, and ahead of many other GT3 drivers. Here we go, provisional results of qualifying 1 of the day for the club division. Robert Sulmer pulling it out of the hat in the closing stages ahead of Felipe Wills, and Lee Mole, Michał Mylov, the early pace setter, in 4th place ahead of Yuka Irola. Murabi Mekbabishvili in P6, Didier Glorier guesting here in 7th, and then the fastest of the GT4 drivers, Seb Hopkins ahead of Corrado Costa, Javier Ripoll Jr. in 10th ahead of Ernst Indovitsin, and then it is Minsky Stanislav in 12th ahead of Alexander Dobik, and Andrea Barati rounding out the top 14. Great stuff. 15th place was Henk van der Rel, and bringing up the rear, Graham King. Both of those in the GT4 category, but a very entertaining qualifying session. It went down to the absolute wire. The track clearly getting quicker and quicker, and it was spectacular stuff in the closing stages. Robert Sulmer just pulling it out of the bag pretty well on, well, not just pretty well, it was on the last lap that Robert Sulmer managed to get that pole position back again, and Felipe Wills will start alongside him. Those are provisional positions, of course, all subject to confirmation, but looking like that is going to be a spectacular race this afternoon. And once again, Seb Hopkins mixing it with the GT3 runners, splitting them in half as he qualifies in the middle of all the other GT4 runners around him. Really, really good stuff for the GT4 driver. So cars now into Parc Fermé, and they're allowed to use skates to move the car, but they're not allowed to do much else. No other work is allowed on the cars. Right, we're going to head back down to the pits, see what Andy's got for us.
Well, I mean, this is only qualifying, and already I feel like we've had a whole season's worth of entertainment. Fantastic stuff out there. 3 drivers, any of whom could easily have taken that pole position. Well, not easily, but were in position to take the pole. But in the end, it was Robert Sulmer who managed it, and we're going to have a very quick chat with him, I think, in a second. He's just talking to the team, debriefing after the session. You can see already they've actually got the tyres on the car for the next part of qualifying, and they are going to be good to go. But Robert Sulmer, I'm sure, will be very, very pleased with himself after what was a extremely hard-fought qualifying session. We're going to try after this as well to wander all the way down to Team Parkour Racing, because I do want to have a word with Seb Hopkins, who put in just an incredible performance there. Robert Sulmer having quite an intense debrief. Bottle of water as well, important to stay hydrated, whether you're driving or just wandering around the pit lane. Let's see if we can dive in now and have a quick chat with Robert, if that's okay. Thank you very much. Robert, wow, what an incredible qualifying session that was. There were 3 of you trading times at the front, but you came out on top. Well done.
Yes, I had some traffic in the beginning, and I had to pass slower cars, so only the last lap I could really push, and I had a free lap. So, but I didn't achieve my goal. Maybe in the second qualifying.
That's interesting. So you think you can go quicker?
Yes, I want to do a 39 time.
Excellent. Well, we'll leave you to it, Robert. Well done, though. Congratulations. Pole position for round 3 for Robert Sulmer. Now, let's have a little wander down this way. We've already got cars. In fact, we've got a green flag. Never mind. So it is time for our final part of qualifying this morning, then. This is qualifying for round 4 of the Club Championship coming your way.
So here we go. It is round 4 qualifying of what is an 8-round season for Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, the club division. That was a spectacular qualifying session. Some great insights there. Thank you, Andy, for having a word with Robert, because really interesting. He felt as though traffic had a bit to play there. We said traffic might be an issue. He thinks he can go quicker. So the fresh rubber is on once again, and it's very much reset back to 0. So what will it look like at the end of this session? Well, we haven't got to wait 15 minutes because we're already just coming up to 13 minutes remaining. That clock doesn't have to tick down quickly when this session is running. How bold will the drivers be? Because will the track get quicker as the end of this session arrives? And if they do leave it till late in the session, they risk a yellow flag, a red flag, and that could really ruin their day. You need to get that banker in, I would say. Drivers out there. Now, there was the early pace setter in the previous session, Michal Mylov in car 70, the driver from the USA for lap time performance. Second in last year's Porsche Sprint Challenge North America, and in the Cayman Pro-Am division, and very much a welcome addition here to Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe. It is a wonderful day here in Estoril. We're getting ready for this qualifying session to kick off, and drivers who tripped up in the previous qualifying session will be looking to make amends in this. It's going to be a tough ask to get on terms with Robert Sulmer, Philip Wills and Limbo. I have to say they were very much in a class of their own. Ernst Inderbitzen will be one of the drivers looking to do that, car number 15, and he was in this very championship last year, finished 7th place in the AM standings, and a very welcome addition again here in 2024. You can see that the conditions remain perfect out on track. Weaving to get the heat into the tyres, so you know you've got the grip. Weaving to get the heat into the brakes, so you know you can stop the thing once you get to the corner. And Ernst Inderbitzen out there, the driver from Switzerland, running for FAC Autotech, Alex Fack's team, the legendary team that we see also across other Porsche series, and Alex Fack Jr., one of the drivers who is racing in Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup Junior, and he helps with his father, Alex Fack Senior and Junior, to run that team, and that is one of their drivers, Ernst Inderbitzen from Switzerland, who is running for them. So car 15, looking to improve on his previous session. He qualified in 11th place in the session that we just witnessed. But at the moment is that period of time, getting the heat into the tyres and the brakes. So, question is, will Michal Mylov push as hard in this session? He saw what happened. He was pushing relatively early compared to the other drivers, and he had that provisional pole, but it was in the later stages that the track seemed to come to the drivers. The rubber really switched on. I'd be interested to see whether he does the same again. We've got all cars out on track at the moment, so every driver currently building the heat into the tyres, and still Alexander Dobic and Henk van der Rel on their out laps. Everybody else now on their build laps and getting ready for the push laps, which will start to come thick and fast in a bit. Our times that we're aiming for is to remind you, a 140.105. That was our pole position time in the previous session, and if the sport division is ready to go by, and if the track is getting quicker, the drivers are getting quicker as well, we may well eclipse that. Can we get into the 39s during this qualifying session? Well, it's possible, but only time will tell. Car 70 still out there. Michal Mylov still building the temperature, getting ready to turn the heat up. At the moment, Robert Sulmer is at the top of the time, but he is some 5 seconds off his pole position time in the previous session, so still very much building it up here at the Estoril circuit. But Michal Mylov is the driver we're looking at in the blue car, now looking down at the pit straight. Under the bridge they come on this circuit. Now this is where we would expect to see a bit of overtaking in the race later on today. It's a slight downhill as they head into the braking zone here. Quite easy to trip up to maybe lock a wheel into that corner, particularly going into turn 1. And that will be no doubt the scene of plenty of excitement. Also the scene of track limits. So drivers need to keep it very much within the white lines, so as to not incur the wrath of the stewards. Right, Limbo, a 142, so he's building as well, but still a couple of seconds off what we are going to expect to see as this session progresses. We've only got a little over 8 minutes remaining, so the time will tick away very quickly. The car's looking all fairly spaced out on the track. Michal Mylov has car 33, Alexander Dobic behind him, but everybody else pretty well spaced out. Robert Sulmer, well, he said traffic was an issue, and he is out on his own at the moment in the 63 car. Up ahead of him is Stanislav Minsky, but he is quite a long way ahead. So Robert Sulmer will be looking just to keep that gap at the moment. He'll hope that the car in front of him, the number 23 car that you saw flashing through your screens there, doesn't get under his feet, and that he can keep that gap, and he will be able to turn it up at 140.526. So Robert Sulmer now putting in a representative time. He's still 4/10 slower than he was in the previous session, so still more to come maybe. There is Lee Mole, currently in P2. Graham King, currently the quickest in the GT4 runners, but I think Seb Hopkins is probably winding himself up as well to move up the order. But Sulmer currently a 140.526. That is the early benchmark in this, the final qualifying session of the day for this, which will be round 4 later on this afternoon here at Circuit Estoril for Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, the club division. Across the line comes car 56, Lee Mole, to the top of the time screens at 139.966. So into the 139s. 139.966, the quickest time of the day. Lee Mole, the first driver to really put the hammer down. Now, who is going to be able to improve on that? 6.5 minutes remaining. Felipe Wills also improving. Keep an eye on Michal Mylov. He's just gone purple in sector 2. So car 70, the next of the drivers to put a fast time in. Now, has Lee Mole gone too early, or is 139.966 the best that we can extract out of this today? Felipe Wills, some half a second back at the moment, but looking to improve. He's into sector 2 at the moment, but this man here, car number 70, Michal Mylov, in 5th place at the moment, but purple in sector 2. Sector 3 was not especially quick, but he can pick it all up in sector 4. It's all about being quick across all the sectors. And there, Michal Marlov in car number 70, out onto the final turn. He's going to cross the line. Will he improve on his 141.098 as he crosses the line? We're about to find out whether he moves up from P5, Robert Sulmer, into P3 at the moment. Now up to P4 goes car 70, so Marlov has improved, but maybe not as much as he wants to. So a provisional second row start for car number 70. Michal Marlov, the driver who was on provisional pole for so much of the previous session. He was P4, is where he qualified in the previous round qualifying session. So currently it'll be 2 P4 starts if things remain as they are. Up to P4 he goes at the moment. Didier Gloria up to P6, Marabi Mekvabishvili up to P5, and Seb Hopkins once again showing a clean pair of heels, cementing the GT3 runners, the GT4 driver up to P7 overall, and on provisional pole for the GT4 category. Up the hill comes Robert Sulmer into the S's. Being careful to keep it within track limits. This is the response from Robert Sulmer. He was the quickest of anybody in sector 1, by 3/10 in fact over Limbo sector 1 time last time around. So here comes Robert Sulmer, 3rd place at the moment. It's looking possible that he's going to improve on that 3rd place. Out of turn 13 he comes onto the pit straight. Robert Sulmer, he's going to break the timing beam in just a few moments. He's surely going to improve on the time that he had. It was 0.560 behind before he crosses the line, and 140.526, so he stays where he is. So lost a bit of time in the last section. In fact, he lost over a second in sector 4. So that last sector costing Robert Sulmer what looked like it could have been a challenge for pole position. He remains in P3 and has to do it all again, moving past the traffic, but time is running out. 3¾ minutes remaining of this, the final qualifying session of the day for round 4 of Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe Club Division. Currently Lee Mole on provisional pole position, the only driver into the 39s. We're riding with Robert Sulmer in car 63. He wants to improve on that 3rd place. How's he going to do here now? So out of sector 1 he comes, and into sector 2. He's not doing anything at the moment that makes it look as though he may steal away the pole position, but that could all change in a moment. It is, again, as we mentioned before, about consistency across all the sectors, and a consistent time, not necessarily purples, but just consistently quick across all the sectors. Here he comes, Robert Sulmer into the S's, and it'll be out across the line in just a few moments, out onto the start-finish line now. So Robert Sulmer, 140.526 last time around. Is he going to improve on that? He's out onto the pit straight now. 140.526. That's the time he needed to beat, and he does that. A 140.486. It moves him up to P2. Still nobody challenging Lee Mole. There are 2.5 minutes remaining. Now, to remind you what happened in the previous qualifying session, it all kicked off in the last minute or so, with drivers really turning the heat up with the temperature into the tyres as well. So Lee Mole currently a 139.966, but it could all change. Once again, Robert Sulmer continuing to improve on his times. A 140.486 last time around. Sector 2 looking quick. Not as quick as sector 1 as he was in the previous sector 1, but still tying it all together across the entire lap, across all the sectors. There is Robert Sulmer picking up the apex, allowing the car just to drift out wide on the exit of the corner. Goes out wide, keeps it out of the gravel. Now it's flat out towards the turn he comes. The right-hand turn coming up. Robert Sulmer, 140.486 into the final section of the lap. The S's, turn 9, turn 10, turn 11, and then turn 12, and then the sweeping Parabolica Ayrton Senna, which is turn 13, which will bring him out onto the pit straight in just a few moments. The only driver still in the 139 is Lee Mole, currently provisionally pole. This man here trying to beat him, Robert Sulmer. He said there was more to come out of the car after the previous session, at the moment. He's half a second down on the provisional pole sitter, 140.486. He goes quicker, but he stays in P2, a 140.169. So still Lee Mole, who's now into the pit, so he will not be responding. He's done all that he can. Felipe Wills is out on track in P3, car number 50. He is about half a second off the provisional pole position time, a 140.517. Lee Mole still very much the benchmark. Robert Sulmer continuing to press on, continuing to try and find a way up onto that pole position. At the moment, it's a front row start. 25 seconds of this session remaining, and then whatever's left of the lap that the drivers are on. Seb Hopkins is into the pits. He's done all that he needs to do. I think the pro and pole position looking pretty solid to him. Only Graham King, the other of the GT4 drivers, out on track at the moment. So Seb Hopkins on pole in the GT4 category. There is Robert Sulmer once again out pushing hard. Checkered flag is out. Sulmer looking to improve, but not doing it at the moment. Only one driver into the 139.966. Sulmer, you can see how hard he's pushing, using the curb. The car bounces up the hill he comes, into the S's, into turn 12 he comes, and then round into the sweeping turn 13. In just a moment will come Robert Sulmer. Has he done enough? He's gone purple in sector 2. So he has the potential here to take this pole position away from Lee Mole. This is his last opportunity. Out of the final corner comes Robert Sulmer. Across the line he comes. It was a 140.169 last time around. Does he do it? No! It is Lee Mole who will start on pole position for round 4 in the club division. It will be Robert Sulmer who starts alongside him. Felipe Wills doesn't improve either. He will start in third. Good qualifying for Michal Mayalov. He is in P4, the fastest of the GT4 drivers. Seb Hopkins, who is 8th overall, very impressive indeed, with a 141.519. Another spectacular qualifying session, but only one driver made it into the 39s. That driver, Lee Mole. Brilliant stuff in car number 56. And Robert Sulmer, he gave it everything he had to try and beat him, but it was going to be a P2, some 0.203 slower than that provisional pole position. In third place, Felipe Wills ahead of Michal Mayalov, who was 4th. Marami Mekvabishvili, a solid performance in P5, and on the third row outside, Didier Gloria lined up. And 7th place, it's Javier Ripoll Jr., and in 8th place, the fastest of the GT4 drivers, Seb Hopkins, Team Parkour Racing, and he will start on pole in that category. Yuka Irola in 9th place ahead of Minsky Stanislav in 10th place. Alexander Domik in 11th ahead of Corrado Costa in 12th. Andrea Barati and Ernst Indovitsin round out the top 14. In 15th place, it is Henk van Norel and Graham King. They are in the GT4 category. So it is a spectacular performance once again from Seb Hopkins to qualify his GT4 up in 8th place. Great qualifying in the club division. That rounds out the qualifying for this rounds 3 and 4 in Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe. We're going to have 4 races coming up this afternoon, and this really is looking like it could be anybody, because so many drivers mixing it, finding the space, finding the grip. I think tyres could be the headline as we head through the racing here this afternoon. Looking after the tyres and having some grip at the end. You'll remember last week in Portimao, at the end of the race, drivers were really struggling for traction. They've all played their joker, so to speak, by putting the new rubber on early, getting that grid position, and they now have nothing else they can do. It will be over to the races. We're going to head back down to the pit lane now. Andy McEwen, what you got for us?
Well, I've located myself down near Team Parkour Racing because they were well and truly on top in that final part of qualifying. The man right next to me, Lee Mole, pole position for round number 4 later on this afternoon. A really, really solid job there. The first qualifying session you were wrapping as well. You clearly got a good feel for the track.
Yeah, I have. It's the first time I've been around here, so I think, yeah, I don't bring any bad habits. So, yeah, slowly progressed throughout the weekend, really. So I was really pleased to get in the 39s. That was my mission. So, yeah, royal chuffed with that.
Obviously, you're someone that I'm more familiar seeing racing back at home in the UK, things like British GT. Would you say that of some of the international circuits, this one perhaps is a little bit more similar to some of the tracks back home? It's quite technical, quite low speed. Does that maybe suit you?
Yeah, definitely. This is quite an old school circuit. When you drive in here, it feels a bit like Monza. Yeah, definitely. It's. I mean, we've got the certain track limits or certain corners, but actually, you know, if you go too far out here, you know, you're losing time anyway. So it's yeah, it's a good sort of UK feel to this.
Thoughts for the races later on then? Obviously it's going to be about tyre management, it's going to be about trying to almost pace yourself, isn't it, really, out there, because it is a technical track, but that will burn the rubber up.
I don't know, to be honest. This is my I did British GT, as you said, for quite a few years, and I've had about 3 years out just doing historic stuff, so you know, those tyres last forever and a day. So this is all a bit of a new experience for me. So second time out, Portimao was my first, so it's just learning for me. So I don't know what will happen to the tyres. I'll speak to the team, they'll tell me what I need to do, and then we'll kind of go from there. But take one lap at a time, I guess.
Excellent, learning on the job, but he stuck it on pole position. Not a bad start today. Thanks for having a chat, Lee. Now, a little bit further down here, also within Team Parkour Racing, we've got one of the real stars of the show from those qualifying sessions, young Seb Hopkins. Welcome to Estoril. Pretty rapid out there in that GT4 Cayman, troubling some of the quick GT3 Cup spec cars. What is it, do you think, that's allowing you to do that? Is it that the track, perhaps, you know, the power disadvantage isn't such an issue, or are you just on it?
I think I'd hope it's a bit of both, really. I think you know, the Cayman in a straight line isn't actually too far off of the Cup cars. Obviously, we have quite a big disadvantage through the corners, so I think hopefully I think I might just be driving it okay. But yeah, for sure the track's going to help.
Obviously, class wins is the goal. We know that. You're only really competing against the other Caymans out there, but it looks like you've got the pace to do pretty well there. So what sort of other targets have you set yourself for the rest of the day? Yeah,
I think for sure, you know, just gain as many positions as possible. It'd be nice to, you know, we're knocking on the door of the top 5 overall in the race. So, you know, that would be a pretty cool achievement.
Excellent stuff off there, Seb. We'll let you go and get some lunch. Just wanted to have a quick chat with Seb there because he was setting the timing sheet to place outright fastest sectors in a GT4 spec Cayman. That is seriously impressive stuff. Right then, qualifying done then here at Estoril. We've got racing to come a little bit later on this afternoon. And Brian, it's going to be an exciting day.
Thank you, Andy. It really is, isn't it? And really great to hear the comments of the drivers there. And yes, Seb Hopkins, he's fairly humble. Yeah, it might have been the driver a little bit. You think really good. But interesting, the GT4 car. He says it can keep up with the GT3s on the straights. It's through the corners that it loses it. So very interesting insight there from Seb Hopkins. Also good to speak to Limbo. He had a couple of 6th places in Portimao, driver who... he was racing the Lotus 78 in the Monaco historic race. There's a car that you'd love to drive, isn't it? A regular GT racer, but preparing for his Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain campaign. And we're looking forward to see how he gets on from that pole position. And he does look to have found some pace since Portimao just 6 days ago. So this race is going to be, or these races are going to be very exciting this afternoon. And once again, a very mixed up grid, not one driver dominating across the entire session. So lots of close racing, I should think, to remind you that we're missing Nicolas Salins and Ian Loggy, who were fighting for wins in Portimao last time out, and hopefully we're going to see them later on in the championship, and that will be really, really good because they were spectacular in Portimao. But the rest of the drivers, well, it gives them a bit of breathing room as well, with different names featuring at the top. But Lee Mole, Robert Sulmer, Felipe Wills, he's got a bit of work to do from 3rd place, but that's a good position to attack, and he will no doubt be looking to make progress once this race gets underway, certainly in that opening lap. Of course, in the club division, the drivers have a rolling start, and in the sport division, it is a standing start. So the start less technically critical in the club division with the rolling start, just giving the drivers to get up alongside each other. But into that turn 1, that is going to be a very interesting opening lap. and especially with this second round, or the fourth round of the season, second of the day in the club division. Some really interesting names, very close together, the times very evenly matched. So we are at the Circuit de Estoril. We are getting ready for the racing, which will come a little later on this afternoon, rounds 3 and 4 of the season. And after that, we will have a short break after today's racing. We'll be back on the 24th of February, where we head to Valencia. So we're going into Spain for rounds 5 and 6. And we will then head to Barcelona, where it all comes to a close on the 2nd of March, the legendary Barcelona circuit. This is the first time that we have visited Estoril with the Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe. So really, really nice to be here. And this series, which is growing so much as it goes along. Last year, excuse me, last year was a very, very successful debut for the series. But this year has grown even more. Part of the Porsche pyramid, very much the tagline, summer wins are made in the winter. And of course, the weather, well, just take a look at that glorious blue sky. In the UK, it's grey and rainy, not very good for testing. Last time I looked in Germany, there was snow on the ground, but here in Portugal and in Spain, a great opportunity for these drivers to get up to speed. But it's more than just a training championship. A lot of these drivers, all of these drivers, they want to win. They're not here just to make up the numbers. They want to win. The championship will be very much up for grabs. And being the champion in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe is something that the drivers would dearly love, and that's what they're fighting for. Something that's part of the Porsche pyramid as well. The Porsche pyramid, which takes drivers, starts off with customer motorsports driving events, the Porsche Driving School and other club sport events. That's kind of the first step on the Porsche pyramid. Moving drivers up into the One Make series, you have the Carrera Cup and the Mobile One Super Cup, and the various GT3 Cup challenges. Then from there, the drivers are heading up towards the world of factory racing. And of course, we see Porsches featuring in World Endurance Racing, in Le Mans, in IMSA, 24 Hours of Daytona. Then the absolute top level, we're looking at the hypercar and LMP1 type racing. Porsche pyramid, a great way of just training drivers, promoting them up through the ranks. We see many young drivers joining Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, and none more so than the likes of Alex Tauscher and Ariel Levy, Horst Felix Felbermayr, Hoop van Eindhoven. These are the names, the drivers that are really cutting their teeth in the world of GT3 racing and moving on up. And then, of course, we've seen the likes of Seb Hopkins as well, who is just so rapid in the GT4 category. And a lot of gentleman drivers as well. And just because the drivers are not in their teen years doesn't mean that they're any less of superstars. Some wonderful talent. And none more so, you saw Lee Mole, who took that pole position for round 4. The driver who has raced in GT racing and was third in the 2015 British GT Championship, and he still looking as eager and as hungry as ever. Right, we're going to head towards the lunch break, back down to the pits now. Hello, Andy. It's all over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brian. I'll tell you what, I got the good job this weekend, didn't I? I get to come and spend a weekend in the Portuguese sunshine, and I'm loving every moment of it. And those qualifying sessions that we've just had, boy, have they set us up for a phenomenal set of races. You don't want to miss the 4 races, rounds 3 and 4 for both divisions, coming up a bit later on this afternoon. Right now here at Estoril, it is the lunch break, which means that it's all fallen quiet for a moment. These are the only races taking place here at this event. A lot of the drivers are taking advantage of the very swanky Porsche hospitality upstairs, and they're getting themselves a bite to eat and some refreshments before they go racing. But we're going to do our very, very best to find a handful of drivers, and I think we might well have our first one. Horst Felix Felbermayr, I believe, wandering out of the Huber Racing Garage. Thank you for having a word with us. Tell us a little bit about how your qualifying sessions went this morning.
Yeah, so qualifying went quite good. finished P4 and P5 for race 1 and race 2. Really looking forward to the races, and let's see what we can do.
And that means that you can hopefully build on what was, I think, a positive start to the season back in Portimao. Decent results from the first 2 rounds. How different is this kind of track, though, as far as your driving style is concerned? Were you confident that you'd be as competitive here?
Yeah, so it's a lot of understeer here. You have to just get into a corner with lots of understeer and then turn the car and get on throttle. That's something really special here. And yeah, especially in the last corner, the understeer is crazy.
And is that the nature of the circuit or the design of the car? Of course, these cars are known for being a little understeery, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's just a combination of both. The track is a little bit understeer and also the car.
Tell us a bit about yourself then and the racing that you've done before you've come and raced with us here. How many years have you been racing cars for now?
So last year was basically my first year in the Cup car. We started off with the Southern Europe, so Sprint Challenge Southern Europe, then went to Benelux, Carrera Cup Benelux and Carrera Cup Germany. And yeah, we want to do Southern Europe this year and Carrera Cup Germany again, and also Italy.
With a mind, I presume, to then moving into GT racing, is that where you see your career going?
Yeah, for sure. In GT3 or LMP cars, in WEC or ELMS will be really nice.
Well, you're with a good team that can certainly prepare you and hopefully move you on up that racing ladder. Let's talk about today then. 2 races coming up later on this afternoon. Everybody's talking about 2 things: overtaking and how difficult it will be, and tyres and how difficult it will be to look after those tyres. Are you concerned about either of those things?
Yeah, for sure, about both things. So start and lap 1 will be really interesting on this track, especially in the chicane. And also the tire, the left front, due to the last corner, will be working a lot. And yeah, we will see how we will do this.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having a chat with us then, Hurst. We'll let you enjoy the rest of your lunch, but there we go. Our first driver down, and fascinating. It's always fascinating to speak to the drivers because there is so much that goes into being competitive out there, be it in a qualifying session or a race session, or a race, as they're more commonly known. It's not just about getting in the car and going as fast as you can. You've got to be thinking about 1,000 different things at 1,000 times. I heard Brian referencing in the qualifying sessions earlier on, someone locking up, they flat spotted the tyre. That can ruin your whole day, actually, because as we've also heard, there are tyre limitations in this series. You only get a certain number of tyres to last you the entirety of the weekend. So if you start damaging those tyres, not only does it affect that qualifying session, but then also can have a knock-on effect into the race later on. Bit of activity behind us in the Huber Racing garage, although the majority of these cars actually racing within the sport division, so a lot of their pre-race 1 prep has actually already been done, but each team will have a list, a to-do list between the sessions, basically, to make sure that the car's ready. Quite a lot that will change setup-wise between one session and the next, and that is the job of the teams to get the cars ready. Right, next garage that we're coming to then, this is the Enrico Fulgenzi Racing garage. They've got a trio of almost identically liveried cars. This is a commentator's worst nightmare. There are slight differences somewhere, probably, on the wing mirrors. I think that does appear to be just about the only thing that is different. Spotting those cars out on circuit won't be too difficult because they are among the brightest things here, but spotting them from between each other, perhaps not all that easy. But we've got the number 24 car, that's Corrado Costa, racing for the team. We've got number 23, which is one of the cars that didn't actually race last time, I believe, at Portimao. Quite a few drivers, actually, who didn't race at Portimao, making their debut here. And I believe we've got one of the Enrico Fulgenzi Racing drivers. Tell the viewers at home a little bit about yourself and how you're enjoying your day so far.
Well, I've been doing some stuff with Porsche for years already. Unfortunately, I had a quite big break for almost 5 years because of the corona and some other issues. But now I'm trying to be a little bit back this season. And yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to be here in winter to run this beautiful track. It's a bit challenging, narrow at times, a lot of gravel from the previous sessions. So, but overall, yeah, I think we had a good run today and looking forward for the race.
Yeah, that's an interesting point that you make, actually. This is a winter series. There isn't really any racing going on at the moment. You could go out and test, I suppose, and just do private testing. Why race? Why is that a better way to prepare yourself for the new season?
Well, I think actually there are a few series because there's something called GT Winter Series as well. But it's a mix of cars, and I think here's a good platform because you have one mix series, and always you can compare yourself to other drivers. And at the same time, I think things like quali and race they actually push you because testing is, especially for bronze drivers like me, sometimes you can't get yourself really focused. But when you have to push against the others. That's the thing.
How did qualifying go for you earlier on this morning then? It was busy out there, wasn't it? Lots of drivers saying it was difficult to get a clean lap in. Did you struggle with that?
No, luckily I think we had a good timing to go out of the pit, so I had actually quite a clean run, couldn't complain too much. No, I think the quali actually was better than the previous session. No, it was okay. I think I could also improve a bit. Still a few things to learn, but yeah, we're working on it.
Looking at the team behind you, it's all very relaxed, not a lot of work going on to the cars right now. I'm sure there will have been setup changes that had to be made. What are the basic things that you look to change on a car between qualifying and the race?
Well, I think, to be honest, we were not super aggressive on setup because anyway, we're not the pro drivers. So we tried to get the most stable car so that we get enough confidence. So I think, unlike pros, we don't really change too much between the sessions. I think we just have a good base and we just work on it. So not really an aggressive thing, not really.
So you and the team can enjoy your lunch break and relax ahead of what's going to be a busy afternoon of racing. Thank you for having a chat with us then. Very best of luck for the races later on.
Thank you, guys.
So there we go. So yeah, that's interesting actually then. The pros and the AMs with a very different approach to how they go into a qualifying session versus a race session. The pros will go for a more aggressive setup. What does that mean? Well, the more aggressive the setup is, the harder the car becomes to drive. But generally, the faster the car will go as well. If the car's on edge, if it's twitching around all over the place, that does make it easier to lose control. But that's the only way, realistically, that you're going to drag a really impressive lap time out of it. So interesting to hear there that the AM drivers perhaps don't take those sort of risks. They just go for a comfortable car and a comfortable feeling underneath them. We arrive now at GP Elite, a bit light on drivers at the moment. We're going to try and drag some out if we can, but this was a team that was getting all of the headlines really in the first part of qualifying, the Sport Division qualifying sessions, with Ariel Levy in particular looking really, really rapid, and he is going to have a fight on his hands if he wants to win the two races today. We saw Alexander Tauscher was every bit as quick as him, in fact pipped him in one of the qualifying sessions earlier on, and we've already spoken to him, but it's always nice to have a chat with Ariel Levy, who looks a little bit less sweaty now than the last time I saw you. You've had a chance now to relax and I'm sure go over the data from that qualifying session, because I think maybe the viewers don't understand, when you guys get out of the cars, you're not done with work, are you?
Yeah, for sure we're not. We need to analyze what was working and what was not. The work never stops, unless maybe you're on a vacation or something. But in the end, we do what we love, so it's not real work,
That's it, and it's supposed to be fun, isn't it, really? I think that's a big part of why a series like this is a great place to be over the winter. I've just said to another driver, you could go out and do winter testing on your own, running around in circles. You probably learn quite a lot, but it's not as fun. And actually, racecraft, it's important to keep that part of your brain sharp as well, isn't it?
Well, for sure, winter testing and testing in general is a really good thing and you can learn a lot, but there's an element in racing that you cannot express in test days, which is stuff, for example, like the competition and the pressure and all those mental stuff, that this is something you cannot replicate in any other circumstance.
Exactly, and that is one of the unique things about this. You're certainly going to be feeling some pressure, I think, in the races later on. It's going to be tight, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be super tight. It has been since the beginning of the season. But in the end, because it's so tight, it's so fun, I guess, no?
And of course, there's a championship to win as well. The points are pretty tight too. It's a short championship though, only 4 events, 8 rounds. So you can't really afford to have a bad day, can you?
Yeah, for sure you're not. But I think statistically, I already had a spin, so hopefully this time it will not happen again.
Yes, I wasn't going to remind you of that, but yeah, that did happen back at Portimao. Hopefully no repeat of that today. So it's lunch break now. Everything's quite quiet for you. Obviously, you've been over the data. Do you get any chance to relax and just sort of put yourself in the zone for the race? How do you go about mentally preparing yourself?
Well, yeah, for sure. I do have this, let's say, half an hour that I go to prepare myself mentally before the race. Usually I would start now, but here I am talking to you. Yeah, but that's completely fine. Yeah, we'll see, yeah.
We will let you go. One more question, though, very important one. How was the hospitality? Well, how would you rate the food in hospitality today?
I would...
Careful.
I would say it is an 8.5 out of 10.
What did you go for today?
Today I only, well, in the morning or now?
For lunch.
For lunch I only ate some pasta and vegetables.
Because he's an athlete, everyone. This is what athletes do. Right, we're going to let you go and prepare for the races. Thanks for having another chat with us. Best of luck to Ariel Levy then, who we'll see out on track a little bit later on. I'm always fascinated to try and get into the mindset of a racing driver, and the downtime between races can often be just as intense as it would be when they're actually out on track. There's so much to do. They pore over the data and try and prepare themselves as best they can for the two races to come. Now, this is an interesting car, actually. This is Drek Jensen's car, number 17. I don't think that Drek is here, but if you just pan over to the front left corner, Laura, this car's had quite a bit of damage on it all day long, actually. The damage was there back in the first free practice session earlier on today, so this car's been in the wars a little bit. The team have been actually working on it between the sessions to try and fully perfect it, and they've done a really good job of that, and you can tell that they're nearly done fixing it because they're now completing the very important task of polishing the side of the car, not the side that had the damage either, so I don't think they're overly concerned about any damage lingering. Then we get to the HWM Motorsport garage. Again, a lot of polishing going on, very relaxed here in the pit lane, but we do have another driver to have a chat with. Sasha, thank you very much for popping out into the sunshine to have a word. You are not dressed for sunny weather. You've got your fireproof overalls on, you've got a jacket on as well. Don't tell me you're feeling cold.
No, it's definitely nice to be back in the sun here, but yeah, it's good. I need to wear the team clothing, represent them a little bit, so yeah.
Nicely done, nicely done. It is warm out there. I mean, inside the cars, I think the viewers at home probably struggle to understand just how tough it is there, because it's physically demanding, mentally it's demanding as well, and all the time you're getting more and more uncomfortable as the race goes on.
Yeah, you lose about a kilogram of liquid during the race, so yeah, it's definitely warm. You need to drink a lot of water before the race, and then especially when you get out of the car, back to hydration. But yeah, it's good. It's fun, it's enjoyable, so pushes you a little bit to go a little bit further every single time, so it's nice.
It's one of those tracks, Estoril, it doesn't look that physically demanding, I suppose, on a map, but because it's quite stop-start, is this one of those places where you do feel quite tired at the end?
I think Portimao is definitely a little bit more tricky with all the elevation changes, but yeah, it's also every single race is demanding, especially mentally. It's tricky to overtake here, so you definitely need to keep pushing, stay fit, stay ready, so yeah, it's still very demanding.
Let's talk about that then. A lot of drivers have mentioned how difficult it will be to overtake around Estoril. There are places, turn one being the obvious one, but on a circuit where there aren't as many obvious overtaking spots, what other tools does a racing driver have to try and make a place up? Because you don't always have to force the issue, do you?
Yeah, you definitely shouldn't force the issue. It creates a lot of dangerous situations where you could end your race just because you make a simple mistake. So yeah, it's definitely good to maybe stay behind someone, force them into an issue or force them on a different line. So yeah, you need to try your hardest to get into their head, and they're doing the same to you. So yeah, you always have to be ready for it.
How's your season been going so far then? Second event of this Southern Europe season, and you've been pretty pacey, I think, haven't you really? Are you satisfied with how it's going so far?
Yeah, I think qualifying one could be a little bit better, but still very happy with how it's going and the results I'm showing at the moment. I'm happy to improve here during the winter and get ready for Benelux in the summer. So yeah, feeling good.
Excellent stuff. Your team, by the way, one of the only teams that actually appears to be working on the car. Do you know what they're doing here? Can you explain to the viewers what's going on?
Yeah, they're just checking the setup a little bit, so making sure that everything's still properly aligned, and then after that I have to sit in the car a little bit to make sure that the balance is completely correct, and then yeah, we get ready for the race.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll get the car ready for you. Thank you very much for having a chat with us. Very best of luck for the two races a little bit later on. Right then, we're about halfway down the pit lane. We've found a handful of drivers. We've got some more as well then. And we arrive now down at the Est Racing garage. And Mr. Ripple Jr. coming out to have a chat with us. Qualifying, happy with how your day's going so far?
Not really. We had problems with my actual car yesterday, so we're using the spare car. A little bit of traffic in the quali Q1, and then Q2 I wasn't able to actually get the proper lap. We're still about a second from the first of the class, so let's see what can we do. You know.
It's so frustrating though, isn't it? Because qualifying is important around here. How do you sort of get yourself out of that frustrated mindset? Because it's important, isn't it? If you're frustrated going into the race, then it's easy to overdrive.
No, understandable. Once you get it, race is a different story. You know, it's a 30 minutes race plus a lap. You have to be careful. The start is very important, so just keeping up the pace. People will get tired, so try to push until the last lap and keep the tires in a good pressure. That's it.
You mentioned the start of the race then. Are these cars tricky to get off the line? Is there a certain sort of technique that seems to work?
Well, now we're in the M class. Actually, it's a rolling start, so it's not complicated, but you have to be careful. We're rolling 2 lines. Do not open before the light turns off. So it's a little bit tricky, and you have to be careful, you know.
What sort of progress do you think you can make in the race then? Because we've seen drivers have bad qualifying in the past and they've managed to race their way to the front. So what results would you be satisfied with today?
Well, top 5 will be amazing. I mean, podium, of course, is a goal, but top 5 will be a good result for us today. Yeah.
Excellent. I think that's probably achievable. I'll let you carry on with enjoying your lunch break. Javier there in the 191 car again. 2 cars almost identical in livery. There are different coloured wing mirrors, which is fine until the wing mirrors get knocked off, which does occasionally happen. Right then, next up we've got actually 2 very differently liveried cars running within the same team then. This is the Genzani Arco Motorsports squad. We've got the number 10 there, Pietro Armani. Now he has been catching our attention a little bit in the early rounds this season back at Portimao. So I'm interested to see what he can do when he gets out on track for the races later on. And then right next door we've got Ombra, and I think we are going to get one of their drivers. We've got the number 9 car of Philippe Ugram on the left, and on the right, which is the number 91 car, that is Anthony Imperato. Again, both pretty rapid drivers who I don't think we necessarily saw the very best of in the qualifying sessions earlier on this morning, so they'll both be keen to try and improve. And we've got Anthony making his way out to have a chat with us now. Anthony, thank you so much for dragging you away from your lunch break to have a little word, but we want to hear how your day's going so far.
Not how I would have liked, but we'll see what we could do in the race and try our best. Happy to be here at this historic track, so we'll give it our best in a little while.
Sensing a bit of disappointment after qualifying, where do you think things could have gone better?
A little bit of everywhere through the lap, but it's how it goes sometimes, but we're going to give it a good shot now.
Hey, look, we're in the sunshine, you get to go racing. It's a nice place to race this as well, isn't it? Is there a particular part of the track that you found has been the most challenging?
Probably the last sector for me has been the hardest.
And that's that really tricky uphill chicane, isn't it? It's difficult, I suppose, to spot your apexes there because there's such a big elevation change.
Yeah, exactly.
What sort of setup changes then are you asking for from the team for the races later on? Are you one of those drivers that likes to keep things the same, or are you going to try and mix things up?
I think we've got to a pretty good place where we're comfortable and we're going to stay there. We'll see what happens in race 1 and then we'll go from there.
Excellent stuff. Thank you very much for having a word with us then. So that is Anthony Imperato, who's going to be racing within the Ombra team for this second event of the Winter Series. And we're making our way almost now towards the very end of the pit garages. And we've got another driver lined up here in the next one, I believe. We're almost getting down to Team Parkour Racing, who I also want to try and stop off with again. Now, Roberto, I believe we're joined by here. Roberto, thank you for having a word with us then. Tell us a little bit, remind me which class you're racing in again?
Yes, not good pace during the quali. I have a little bit problem with the balance of the car, but still work for have a good speed now in the race 1.
When you say a problem with the balance, too much oversteer, understeer, what was it?
A lot of oversteer in the entry in the corner, and I have a lot understeer in the exit in the last corner. Maybe it's normal, the temperature, I don't know.
Well, it's only getting hotter now as well, so that's not going to make life any easier for you. That's always difficult, isn't it? When you have oversteer and understeer, it's difficult to know what you need to change. I'm sure the team have been trying to guide you through what should be done.
Yes, maybe now change the rack of the car, so, and also the pressure of the tires, because the race is long, so maybe it's a good chance for the race.
Excellent, thank you very much. Best of luck for the two races to come a bit later on. Now, next garage up, this is the Team Parker Racing garage, I believe, and we've had quite a lot of mentions of Team Parker Racing today, I have to say, and quite a few mentions of Hugo Ellis, who joins me now in the pit lane. Hugo, so close in those qualifying sessions, you were right up there, you were setting really quick lap times, and there just always seemed to be someone else who had an even faster lap time waiting.
Yeah, we just messed up really, like we didn't quite piece it together. But I think, we got the race pace, so it should be good.
How, you say you've got the race pace, I mean, that's all well and good. Track positions are going to be tricky to try and gain there, but you're a driver who you can overtake, can't you? Are you feeling pretty confident that you can get your elbows out here?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, never raced there before, but I'm sure there'll be opportunities.
How aggressive are you willing to be then? I mean, obviously it's a championship, you want to try and do well. It is a winter series though, but you're not really going to be racing against most of these guys, I guess, too much more this year, so you can afford to make a few enemies.
Well, yeah, for sure, but you got to be clean, haven't you? So,
Yes, obviously we condone clean racing here in this championship. But Hugo, what brings you to this series then? Obviously you've been racing in the UK quite a bit of late. Is this sort of a natural next stepping stone on where your career path's going to take you?
Yeah, I think we will try and go abroad more, but it's more just to get some laps under our belt for the English Championship, really.
So that's going to be your focus. Is that Carrera Cup GB this year?
Yeah, correct.
And how confident are you of that one then? I mean, again, we know you're a quick driver, but that's a talented grid of drivers out there, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll have to see, but hopefully we should be one of the front runners this year, but we'll just, again, we'll have to see.
Excellent stuff. Right then, Hugo, race one coming up, round 3 of the championship, I should say, coming up very, very shortly, and that is going to be coming your way live here from Estoril. 4 races to come over the course of the afternoon, 2 for the sport division, 2 for the club division, which is the one that's split into the 2 classes. You've got the Cup class cars and the GT4 Caymans as well. There's the Team Parker garage behind, everyone looking nice and relaxed, I believe, ahead of what is going to be an interesting race. Sid Smith, a driver worth watching for. We chatted to him actually earlier on today, and Sid Smith is someone who's raced in the junior ranks of British racing back in the Fiesta Juniors, then moved into single-seaters, and he said GT racing is absolutely where he wants to be. Got himself in a bit of trouble last time at Portimao with track limits. He said he's learnt his lesson, and hopefully he's going to be able to race to the front. Seems a bit quicker as well, actually, here this weekend. Right, I think we've pretty much exhausted our supply of drivers. We've had a chance to chat to a number of them. That is good news. We have got racing coming your way actually in the not too distant future. You can hear a few engines being fired in the garages behind me. It's round 3 of the sport division that will be your first racing action here from Estoril. It is going to be a fascinating afternoon. All of the qualifying sessions were nip and tuck. I've no idea who is going to come out on top in the races, but I'm certainly going to have fun watching.
Thank you, Andy. Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe 2024. This is going to be an excellent afternoon of racing. 4 half-hour races coming your way. 2 for the sport division and 2 for the club division. We're kicking off with round 3 of this 8-round championship for the sport division, and that will be coming up very, very shortly. Then we will have round 3 in the club division. Then we will come back to the sport division for round 4. For their second race of the afternoon, and then it'll all wind up with a second race from the club division as well. And it really is anybody's guess. I think Andy was just saying, well, he doesn't know who is going to win. You and me both, not a clue. And really interesting grid. Well, the 2 real protagonists at Portimao back on Sunday of last week, was it only 6 days ago? Alex Tauscher starting on pole position, Ariel Levy alongside. That is going to be really interesting. Huub van Eindhoven, keep an eye open for him. He will be starting in 3rd place. I wouldn't mind betting he will be having eyes on potentially trying to get into the lead. Coming round turns 1 and 2. Of course, it's his teammate is Ariel Levy, so quite important they don't take each other out. But Huub, a driver who does not back off for anybody. Horst Felix Felbermayr, we heard from him during the lunch break, and he did a great job to qualify on the 2nd row. Already mentioned the Felbermayrs, a name that is very familiar for those of you who follow German and Austrian motorsport, and Horst Felix, one of the drivers coming up through the ranks. And I dare say that starting on the outside second row, he might have some plans to try and jump in front into that first corner as well. So those first 2 rows, definitely to watch out for. Senna van Serlen, who lines up 5th on the grid. Now, he's a driver who's come from single mate racing. He is very rapid indeed. I've been watching him throughout this year. Real young talent who's stepping up into GT3 Cup racing to prepare for Carrera Cup in 2024. He is going to be there or thereabouts. And then Sebastian Freimert on the 6th position on the grid. Another driver who is on the move through the ranks. He was in the Porsche Sprint Challenge Southern Europe last year, finished in joint 3rd. We've also seen him in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. He was 6th in the rookies in 2022. And last year he was 16th overall. And Sebastian Freimert, another driver who is improving. So directly behind him, Hugo Ellis. We've heard from him as well, one of the very quick British drivers. And then alongside him, Robin Knudsen, who was very rapid when we saw him at Portimao only 6 days ago. So lots to play for, lots going on, and it is going to be a very exciting race, the first of 2. Of course, the drivers need to look after themselves, need to look after the cars. At the risk of repeating what we were talking about this morning, the tyres will be absolutely critical here. A circuit that we've discovered is not great for overtaking. A couple of overtaking opportunities, but it's not like Portimao where you had just numerous opportunities. So there is that temptation in the opening lap of a race to really push hard, because you know this is your opportunity to make up those places. But of course, it's also the perfect opportunity to lose a lot of places, or worse still, end up in one of those gravel traps. I have to tell you, those gravel traps do what they say on the tin. They trap the car, and once you are in them, you probably ain't coming out of them. So if you end up in the gravel trap, your afternoon, or certainly your race, could be over. So the drivers needing to have a bit of strategy, look after the tyres, make sure you've got some grip at the end of the race, make sure the car's got 4 wheels on the wagon and it's pointing in the right direction when it counts, and it counts when the checkered flag comes out, because that is when the points are paid. So the car's now heading round to the grid for the grid lap, and they will come to a stop on the grid. And in a bit, we're hoping to head back down to Andy, who will be having a word with a few of the drivers. But this is a good cycle lap, actually, a good opportunity for the drivers to check that everything still feels okay on the car. If they've locked up tyres in quali, to see what kind of state they're going to be in for the race, how much vibration is there going to be. Of course, any damage you do in qualifying, either to the car or to the tyres, you're going to be carrying that into the race, because it would seem that most of the drivers, if not all of them, put new tyres on their cars for qualifying, and so they're going to be carrying those same tyres into this race. So this little cycle lap as they come round to the grid, just finding out how it's looking. The teams have not been able to work on the cars in the time between qualifying and the race. Parc Ferme conditions, and that looked like Anthony Imperato grabbing a bit of curb as he came over the hill. So yes, not able to make adjustments to the cars. Literally just, that's Anthony Imperato. So it was the other of the Ombra cars that we saw getting a bit of air there. Very impressive indeed. That would have been Philip Ugran. But yes, teams are not able to make adjustments to the cars. Tyre pressures, fuel the thing up, and apart from that, they are in Parc Ferme conditions. So it really is very much carry over what you had in qualifying, and it will be that you're carrying all the way through for the rest of the afternoon. Just looking at Sid Smith in the number 55 car. He's from Malden in Essex, 17 years old. He started in the world of mini stocks racing, in British stock car racing, and has worked his way up. Comes through and preparing for Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain. Right, we're going to head back down to Andy, who's on the grid. Good afternoon, Andy.
Good afternoon, Brian. Yes, been a busy bee this morning and this afternoon. Great little pit walk that we just did there. Had a chance to chat to a lot of drivers, but we're now going to try and chat to some more because we're out on the grid ahead of round number 3 of the Sport Division, and most of the front runners starting to get themselves down onto the grid. We've got Ariel Levy, who's going to be starting on pole position. Chatted to him a couple of times today. He was feeling pretty calm, pretty chill about how his prospects shaped up, and then he will actually be starting second on the grid. Of course, it is going to be Alexander Tauscher who will take up this position here, pole position. That's the outside line going into turn 1, which is interesting because usually you would see pole on the inside. The reason for that is that this here is the racing line. There's lots more rubber down on this side of the racetrack. There's a lot less rubbish and dirt and debris on the left-hand side, so it's supposed to give a little bit of an advantage to the drivers starting on that side of the grid. Right, Huub van Eindhoven's going to be my first victim. I think we're going to try and dive in here, have a little chat with the driver of car number 28. He's just chatting to one of his engineers now, but if you don't mind, I'm just going to slip in and have a word with the man who will be starting third on the grid for this third round of the championship. Huub, solid qualifying session, I think it's fair to say. Third place is not bad, but what's it going to take to beat those two in front of you today?
To be honest, I was quite disappointed with third, but yeah, we lacked some pace and now we have to make up for it for the race.
It's always difficult, that. Did you at least manage to find where that pace was going missing, and are you confident that you've found it now?
Not completely, but I think for the race we're looking strong, and I will give my all to overtake 2 cars.
And we hope that you will, because that will provide lots of entertainment. Huub van Eindhoven then starting third on the grid. Still actually no sign of Alexander Tauscher, our pole sitter, in no rush to get out onto the grid. And you can understand why, because the drivers are sat in their cars. They're slowly baking at the moment. It's so warm. Even just popping my head in there, I was feeling the sweat. So no wonder really that some of them are taking their time to get out onto the circuit. Senna van Solen starting on the next row. This would be 5th on the grid. And I'm going to see if I can have a quick chat with Senna. Just going to pull the door open. There we go. Nice light doors on these racing Porsches. Senna, 5th place on the grid. Happy with that? And how confident are you that you can improve in the race?
Yeah, I'm very happy with P5. Best qualifying position so far. Yeah, we are going to see what I'm going to do in the race. So let's push, let's fight, and go to the podium maybe.
Well, to get on the podium, I think you're going to need a good start, aren't you? It's quite a long run into that first corner and quite a big braking zone. How feisty are you feeling today?
Yeah, of course, first race here in SRU. Yeah, so we are going to see it. Let's enjoy it and let's push, of course.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having a chat then. Senna starting P5 on the grid. I didn't shut that door properly. There we go. Give it a good slam. And Senna is good to go. Right then, next up we have got Sebastian Freymuth starting 6th on the grid for round number 3 of the championship. And see, it's all right if we just dive in and have a quick little chat with him. Looking very relaxed here, arm out of the cockpit, because I tell you what, Sebastian, it's pretty toasty in here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty warm. Even though it's winter, it's pretty warm, yeah.
Doesn't feel like winter to me, I can assure you. 6th place on the grid. Do you feel like maybe you could have done better than that, or is this sort of where you expect it to be?
Yeah, I messed up Q1 a little bit. Q2 I'm P3, so the pace is there. I just have to get to the front and then we'll see.
Was that a mistake on your part, or were you just struggling with traffic? A few drivers said it was difficult to get a clean lap.
Yeah, a bit of both.
Fair enough. You're definitely going to have traffic in the race, though, aren't you? Lots of people try and overtake in front of you, but got to try and keep the car in one piece because it's a short turnaround between the 2 races.
Yeah, you have to keep it clean in this championship because there's no time between the sessions.
Excellent. So there we go. That's the game plan. Keep it clean, but try and get on to the podium. So that's our first few rows done. I'm already falling over people. I just want to dive down a couple more rows. There's Hugo Ellis. Just had a chat with him during our lunchtime pit walk. He's going to be starting perhaps a bit further back than we might have expected to see, but there are a couple of other drivers further back than we thought. One of them is Robert Knutson, who I did want to try and have a chat with. West Coast Racing is his team. Now, I haven't encountered West Coast Racing in a number of years since their TCR UK days, but Robert is a driver who has TCR experience, don't you, over in Scandinavia. This is a bit different, isn't it? You enjoying it so far?
Yeah, very. I like the Porsche. It's very difficult to drive, but yeah, once you get used to it, it's nothing compared to the TCR. I like it way much more.
These cars are a real handful, aren't they? Not a lot in the way of driver aids, and that makes it particularly challenging on cold tyres. It won't take long to get the heat in the tyres today, but do you have to sort of have that in your mind in the early laps?
Yeah, for sure. You really need to be aggressive on the way to the grid and on the warm-up lap. to really get the tyres in. Otherwise, when you have cold tyres, you really struggle with understeer and much more prone to locking. So yeah, really difficult.
Good stuff, Robert Knutson then for West Coast Racing, starting from the 5th row of the grid. And the other driver that I really did want to try and have a word with is actually starting directly behind him, Marco Giltrap, who will be starting from the outside, or the inside of row 5, that's 10th on the grid. But Marco is actually second within the Pro Championship standings after Portimao. I think it's fair to say that Marco, qualifying didn't really go to plan this morning, did it?
Yeah, no, not at all. Hopefully we can sort of repeat Portimao and move forward quite a bit. I think the start and the first couple laps will be crucial for that.
So frustrating because it is a short championship this. You're obviously a contender. We saw that from your pace in Portimao, but one off weekend can really derail your championship hopes. So it's down to you now to dig deep, isn't it, and sort of get yourself back up there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of damage limitation, just trying to get as much points as we can. So I think if we can move towards that top 5, that'd be a really good result.
Tyre management, key in the races here this weekend. Lots of drivers talking about that. You can't really think like that, though, can you? You've just got to go for it.
I think you're just going to have to go as hard as you can in those first couple laps and then see where you end up. And if you're in a solid position, then maybe start thinking about the tyres. But, yeah, just after those first 2 laps, get them out of the way.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having a word with us then. Marco Giltrap, one to watch, most definitely, starting from the 5th row of the grid. We've got, I think, 4 minutes before the green flag lap gets underway, so we might just have chance to chat to one more driver. And I've got a particular driver in mind. We're going to walk and talk a bit because I want to try and get down to a driver who is on, well, outside the top 10, actually, and that is Angus Whiteside. Angus Whiteside, a really, really talented driver within UK motor racing. And he is certainly going to be looking forward, I think, in this race and hoping that he can break into the top 10. We have to be very quick because we've got about a minute before we get kicked off the grid, but that should just give me enough time, hopefully, to jump in and have a word with Angus. I'm interrupting his, what is it, pre-race meditation? How do you get yourself psyched up for these things?
I was doing mindfulness, yes. It's okay, don't worry.
We just wanted to hear from you because obviously you're a driver that I've followed your career within the UK. Nice to see you out here now in Europe. Is this sort of where you think that your career path sort of lies for you?
What, as in, where do I think it's going?
Yeah.
Well, I think I've got a lot of unfinished business with Porsches, so hopefully I'll get faster and faster as the season goes on. I'll be competing in GB this year, so this is like my my prep for that, basically.
Excellent stuff. Right, we will now leave you to it. Get back in the zone then, Angus, because we need to get ourselves off the grid because round number 3 of the Sport Division is coming your way in just a few moments.
Thank you, Andy. Great stuff down on the grid. Some great insight. Very good to see Angus Whiteside doing his mindfulness there. I've been doing the same here in the commentary box. I've just had my legs crossed and my eyes closed, but now we are ready because this is going to be spectacular. This is going to be loud. This is going to be noisy. This is going to be explosive. It will be 30 minutes plus 1 lap of pure elbows out racing. Now, it was interesting to hear different drivers' strategies there, what they were thinking about as they sat on the grid, how they are planning this race out. And very much, I thought that Marco Giltrap, when he said that he was kind of really just going to go hell for leather for the first few laps and see what he had left at the end. And I think if you've qualified a little bit further down than maybe the first couple of rows, that can only be your strategy. If you want to get points, if you want to get a podium, then that can be the only strategy that you can have, really. Right, we are getting ready for round 3 of an 8-round